Well, Mike Angove, great to have you here. I'd like to get your thoughts on 2018, first of all.
Well, it's been a great year for combat sports in general. A little bit of an up and down year for Joseph Parker, but we've got to remember, look, he had a unification title fight at the beginning of the year, a really hard fight. He's very much in the conversations about who are the top 5 heavyweights in the world. So that's still, a tremendous achievement, and he's back on track. Obviously, across at the UFC, tremendous opportunities, particularly coming out of City Kickboxing. Israel Adesanya with his breakout year. Dan Hooker, he still remains inside the top 15, and justifiably so. A little bit of a hiccup at the end of the year, which is really just a reminder, at this top level, minor percentages can make a huge difference in a fight. You can be a little bit flat, you can have a couple of things that don't quite work, and at top level you can really suffer. But mark my words, Dan Hooker will be back for sure. And I think we've also got to remember David Naika, double gold medal. So look, it's really coming on in leaps and bounds, and really brings us back to 219, and really looking forward to a great year.
Yeah, well, talk about 219. How far is Joseph Parker Jr. far fight away? Every time we talk about Joseph Parker in New Zealand, the New Zealand public, what about Junior? What about Junior?
Well, obviously, I'm a little bit partisan because Junior's in the gym with us. But realistically speaking, both the guys are on a slightly deviated path at the moment. Junior needs a couple of breakout wins against more notable opponents. Joseph is trying to rebuild, after those losses, and work his way back up the rankings into contention, so he can get back across in the UK, or potentially a fight across in the US. I think the UK though is more likely. Look, the time that takes to build and to bubble away, and as both guys regain credibility, means that it's not something I think that's going to happen in the next 12 to 24 months, but it's always going to be on the cards. It's always a likelihood when you've got 2 top tier heavyweights. What I'd like to see personally is our boys do what they can at the top end, at the top echelon against the rest of the world, and then maybe we can have a look at those local bouts.
And also on the boxing, like we've got Hemi here, another good fighter that's going to do some pretty spectacular things, I believe.
Oh, look, Hemi, he's a bit of a throwback fighter, and comparisons are made to Mike Tyson, and that's pretty obvious. He's a shorter heavyweight, he's explosive, he bridges the gap to come on the inside, and he has knockout power off either hand. He's come back off a bit of a break. He's shaking off the rust, and again back in here at City Kickboxing, which means he's surrounded by some other top tier boxers and some top tier trainers that are applying the pressure and constantly reviewing and viewing what he's doing. And look, he's a huge prospect who I look forward to seeing how he progresses this year.
Back to the MMA, and you mentioned the rankings before. Kai France must be getting close to that mark too.
Oh, look, he's just made his debut. It was an impressive debut. Look, the guy he fought, though, he was fighting very much a high guard ground game. Kai had to escape a triangle in that, but and he had to maintain pressure. There's a lot of punches thrown in that fight. Yeah. He's a fighter who has one punch knockout power, and that's huge at that level, and in particular at the weight that he's fighting about. Someone who can bring excitement to the lower weight tiers, and we know that Dana White is he's in a little bit of two minds about the lower tier divisions. So a guy like Kai with that knockout power, who can produce one round knockouts, single shot knockouts, has to be exciting for that division.
And of course, Melbourne coming up, a couple of weeks away from there. What are your predictions there? Anderson, Silva, Israel, what a fight.
Well, first of all, road trip, Kiwis. Look, that's huge. It's really it's a turning point fight. It's a breakout fight. Potentially, Adesanya can build his brand even further with a knockout of someone who has been an icon, not just his hero, but a hero to many millions of viewers around the world. He's been a staple of what the UFC represents for a long, long time. He's 43 years of age. He's slowed down. His performances, we've noted in recent times, haven't been great, but there's also been some very short notice fights. There's been some questionable decisions and some bad luck. For mine, Cormier on 2 days' notice, you guy who's now got the super heavyweight title, and he went the distance with him. Breaking his leg, obviously, that was a tremendous bad luck. So it's really the knockout loss for me. The early knockout loss to the left hook was probably the most disappointing factor for him. But the other bouts that he's had, I think you can take that with a grain of salt. But one thing for sure, he's training very, very hard for this fight. He's got Alex Pereira, the current middleweight glory champ, in there. Perhaps for the first time in 3 or 4 years, Anderson Silva has got a bit of a bomb under him. And the carrot that Dana's thrown him reputedly is, look, you win this, you get a shot at the title. So he's highly motivated. He'll be training very hard, so he'll be fit. And you can't underestimate his ability to find those single shot knockouts. But if you look at the stats, I think Adesanya is a better striker. I think he's more complete. I think he's more compact, and I think he has actually more arsenal. So it's a case of just not leaving any gaps for Anderson, who's very good with his timing and reading the game, assessing data, and then delivering a single knockout strike. And he's patient as well. He knows he's not going to come in and outwork Adesanya, so he'll be trying to stall, he'll be trying to time his run at the beginning and ends of rounds, perhaps look to grind him up against the wall and get the Thai plum clinch going as opposed to the ground game. So look, it's a fascinating fight that we're all really looking forward to. And look, if he wins this, if Israel wins this, the world's his oyster.
Yeah, well, we're all hoping for that, and we're all just about expecting it here in New Zealand. That's a bad thing, I think, but
yeah, look, I think at this level, what we've got to understand, as I said before, you can't take it for granted. The fights like this are decided by split seconds and millimetres. They're not decided by who is physically the strongest, generally speaking, because they're all exceptional athletes. They're all highly talented. They're all right at the top of the game. Anyone inside that top 20 is an incredibly dangerous human being. So we can't take it for granted, and that's something I guess as a coaching staff we all preach here as well. You can't take it for granted. You have to prepare for each fight as if it's your last. One other thing too, when we talk about Melbourne, obviously Shane Young's also on that card. Now he's coming back after a little bit of time out, but he will be fired up. He's coming off that KO victory, which was a war that he earned KO of the night, I think fight of the night as well. So Shane Young, I believe, can actually tip over this guy that he's fighting coming next. So look, we've got some really interesting prospects, and of course we'll say Kiwi born Robert Whittaker. He's on there as well, defending his title against Gastelum, and so there's plenty of New Zealand representation.
Well, it's not only this next month and this month that we're looking forward to. The whole year looks bright, and thanks for your time, mate.
No problems. Look forward to it.
Okay.
Cheers, Tony.
Cheers.